because it's time. So I'm Nancy Stubbs. I'm the enrollment consultant for the Hendricks Institute, and this is a special Big Leap Bridge class tonight. We've got three, oh gosh, I'm already gonna start crying, but three amazing, amazing couples. When I just tuned in for a moment as to what word would really match what I feel for each of these three couples, and it's just like, poof, I just got a bubble of love arise. And so we've got three couples who comprise our relationship panel this evening, and they are all individuals who are incredibly creative in their own right, and then they choose to be with their partner and turn towards one another over and over and over again to amplify that creativity in ways that change kind of create an evolutionary change to relationship. And for those of you, and there's a lot of you, like I'm going to look down at my screen. Like I'm looking at my camera now, I'm looking at the screen, looking at everybody's beautiful faces, is that there's a lot of you who have come to Hendricks trainings or participated online, or perhaps you've read some books and you're just curious to know more. But you know that, or at least maybe your curiosity brought you here, that what Katie and Gay Hendricks are up to in the world is really, truly creating an evolutionary shift in how we as humans do relationship. So taking us out of the options, or at least recognizing the options where we get into power struggle, because that's going to happen. What Katie and Gay have taught for decades is how to turn the energy, that creative energy and juice that we put into those power struggles, for example, and how do we then turn that into creative energy so that we're actually expanding our capacity for more love, more appreciation, more joy, more fun in our primary relationship. So that's what we're going to be chatting about and talking about tonight. With that said, I'm going to be kind of sort of moderating tonight and looking at your questions and calling on people, and then letting our three couples answer your questions. So without further ado, our three couples are, and I want you to put your hands up, do something, make yourselves known. So I'm going to start, since I see Michele out of the corner of my eye doing that already. Oh yeah, and everybody was already doing it, but Michele and Dean, we're going to start with you. So Michele and Dean, if you could raise your hands, just do something fun with your hands. So Michele and Dean recently got married. A little tidbit here. They got married, what, a month, 6 weeks ago, maybe? I think 8 weeks
August
ago.
1st.
Yep. And they've been partnered for quite some time, and they, like our other two panelist couples, have turned their creative energy into starting businesses together. And so that's one of the things, it's one of the themes that of tonight and of the Hendricks work is, how do you amplify that creative energy to do good things in the world? So Michele and Dean have been coming to Hendricks trainings. I think first training was maybe about 4 years ago. That's what we were talking about earlier. And they've both graduated from our leadership and transformation program. Next, I want to go to Heath and Nicole. So Heath and Nicole. Oh, and by the way, Michele and Dean are out of Simi Valley, California. Heath and Nicole are out of the Phoenix area. Tempe, Mesa. Mesa, out of Mesa, which is a suburb of the Phoenix area. And pre-COVID, you were pretty much citizens of the world.
That's right. It's your word.
Yes.
Pre-COVID, yes.
Yes, pre-COVID. Heath and Nicole first started coming to Hendricks trainings a little over 6 years ago, and they have a thriving business together of massage, qigong, I think, I'm not sure how to say that.
Qigong,
yeah,
yoga, body work, yeah.
Yeah, lots of different businesses, but also videos and great social media following. And they too are graduates of our 2-year leadership and transformation program. So I'm happy that they're part of this conversation tonight too. And and one piece of feedback that just bubbled up was that a mutual friend of ours once said about you, just a one-liner, was how much they respect the way the two of you always turn towards one another, physically turn towards one another, and really listen, whether you're laughing or having fun or having a conversation about, what's the next day going to look like. And he just said, yeah, they're my model for what conscious relationship looks like.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah, it was really cool.
So let me know who that was.
Thank you.
First name starts with a C. We'll talk about it. And then Bob and Marlene and I, yeah, woohoo! They are out of Ottawa, Ontario. And Bob and Marlene, I met them in October of 2002 at a couples course that Katie and Gay were teaching together in New York City. Wow. And yes, that wow is definitely deserved. And Bob and Marlene have been married for 50 years this year. Yep. So, woohoo! Yep. And one of the things that I remember from our conversation at that training, and I've been around Katie and Gay for like maybe 6 months, not very long. But one of the things that I remember you talking about was, I think you've been married like 31 years or 32 years at the time. And you had gotten to this point of, you've raised your boys, you've sold your, family home, and now you're kind of like going, well, now what? And what do we do now? And everyone, I can tell you, because I've watched their journey for the last 18 years, Bob and Marlene have expanded their a way of putting relationship success out into the world and inspiring hundreds, if not thousands, of other couples and individuals in Ottawa and elsewhere. So, that's my introduction of everybody. And what I would love to do now is just turn my attention to the chat and also see, is there anyone that wants to raise your hand? Do you have a burning question that could kick us off? Think of yourself as, to use a game metaphor, you're the one that's going to like do the tip of the ball at the basketball court, so who's going to do that? Anybody have a question?
I'll jump in.
Great, Marlene, thank you.
Unless Janet wants.
Well, when we were tossing around this call and what we were going to talk about, the question came up, which I'd like everyone to hear the answers to, which is what if one or more has been made the biggest impact? And we just had a whole weekend of this. So I want to highlight how much appreciation has made an impact on our lives. And I remember back in 2002 at that training you were at, Nancy, where we did an activity where we were supposed to appreciate our partner for 5 minutes. And I could hardly think of anything to say. I could say he's a good dad, really didn't have a whole lot. And yesterday, supported by some of the people that are on this call, we were given the opportunity to appreciate each other, and I just got started. I mean, we had 10 minutes of appreciating each other, and it just I just feel like I have gained, through my work with Gay and Katie, my ability to receive as well as give appreciation, and that's made a major impact on my relationship.
Yeah, it was an amazing time yesterday. Something else I want to add to that was that we learned from Gay and Katie that a really advanced move was making everything bigger. And part of our journey has also been to be part of an improv theater group in the last 15 years. So following impulse and making things bigger, that's the way things happen around here. I remember Gay and Katie saying that kind of stuff. Well, if you were at our house, yeah, well, if you're at our house, we're constantly doing that. And some people might look at it and say, what are they doing? Are you fighting? It sounds, no, you're not fighting. We are actually using humor to make things bigger. And so it's all about, well, who washed the dishes? I got the points for that. And
no, I got the points. I did.
You're doing that too much these days.
You're getting too many points.
I actually do get a lot of points, I want you to know. And so, we're doing this kind of stuff all the time. And, we'll get into, stuff about being old people, because, we are. And, it's like, well, puppy's got to say a few things. And away we go. And it's just great fun.
I actually have an ask for you, a request for you, Marlene, if you're willing, or Bob, either of you. But in a like a 10-second statement, like a one out breath statement, it takes approximately 10 seconds. Would you demonstrate appreciation for everyone? So that we all get to be and, you know, get to kind of be in and swim in that energy that you have for appreciative love or attention for each other?
I love the way you play.
Well, how can I beat that? I, right now, am appreciating the absolute amazing gorgeousness about how your hair falls around your face. Quite different.
Yum. Thank you. Thank you. So that is just a beautiful and genuine example of what can arise when you let appreciation be a focal point. And then, and I imagine what you were saying earlier is that because I'm not at your house, but I hear you telling the stories of how you really play with everything that arises, and you make make things bigger, and you just shift your energy through play and through exaggeration. That's another set of tools that you use. So yum. Yum. So Janet, did you have a question?
Yes. Thanks.
Yes.
We're in the US, we're in the middle of a big election season. I wonder if in your couples you have issues that you disagree about that turn hot, where you lose your center, your footing, your appreciation. I wonder how you handle those things.
It sounded like Heath might have had a little like, ooh.
Well, I love the question. I don't have an immediate response. But, it sounds like some chemistry and some energy behind that question. So I'm sensing into where are our kerfuffles, and I think a lot of it is our different paces. So I tend to get ahead of myself, and I like to have a vision, and I like to go for it. And
I'm often sitting in the car waiting for Heath to get out and let's go.
But yeah, there's a whole little kabuki dance where sometimes I'm ahead of myself and then very much ahead of her. Or I'm so ahead of myself that she's waiting for me, or I'm waiting for her, and so I see our different paces and styles as sometimes like going in different directions. But what I do find is it's more of like a double helix where we start to kind of go away and then we spiral back.
You're like, where are you?
Where'd you go? Where'd you go? And I think something that as differentiated like our pre-Hendricks days, we were already together for about 20 years before we started the Hendricks. And today is that we're not as nice, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean I'm serious about this. Like I see kindness as a totally different flavor and activating force of niceness, but I think sometimes I would hold back the truth, or I'm thinking sometimes maybe you wouldn't be direct, or I wouldn't be direct about like, where are you? I thought you said we were coming together. And in the past, we kind of walk on eggshells or wait for another time. Let's wait till, I don't want to make any conflict. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. And so what I notice now is when things are a little wavy and we're kind of missing each other, it's not always immediate, but we've definitely winnowed that gap so that we're pretty close to expressing the moment. Where'd you go?
Yeah, that microscopic truth has been a really big practice for us to get to really know what is it that I'm feeling right now, and can I say it, and I'm going to say it, and follow that impulse and not withhold and withdraw and start to project all these weird feelings all over Heath and make up stories about what's going on and what's not going on. So I think that microscopic truth has been an essential component of us being able to come back to each other after we've gone in our separate directions.
And that was kind of radical, because before
yeah.
we want to put a little buffer.
Yeah, well, I'd want to make it perfect. You know, I'd wrap my
Do a little preface.
Wrap it all up in a pretty bow so he could accept it and he'll understand me. It's completely clear and he'll know exactly how I feel.
And now we're just like, what the hell? This little pattern interruption. We're like, what the hell?
Oh yeah. Wait a minute.
Good question.
Come back.
I'm dislocated. Okay. So I think the ability for us to notice when one or the other has gone absent and request their attention is a lot quicker.
And what about making requests? Wow, that's been a huge shift for us. Figuring out that making a request and how to make a request, do I even know what I want, has been a huge way for us to connect in a whole new way. Like physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually, a whole thing. Like making requests, what a cool option. I had no idea.
We could be friendly with requests.
So it sounds like, and I want to bridge it back to Janet's question, but what it sounds like is that what you've really put a lot of your creative energy into in your relationship is turning towards one another, seeing one another, and being authentic and transparent with one another, where in the past you might have partitioned yourself off to somehow keep things convenient for you and keep things convenient for the other person.
Yeah, keep it convenient, keep it safe, keep it.
Let's not ruffle any feathers.
Let's keep it nice and pretty, you know, like this will look perfect.
Yeah, and what I'm guessing, Janet, is that you're on maybe another end of the spectrum where things aren't maybe being kept nice and pretty. Did I hear that correctly? Did I interpret that correctly? Or okay.
No, not really. But it could happen simultaneously, that there's kind of nice behavior or just quiet behavior or just space. You know, some backing off could happen. Takes different shapes.
Yeah, so then instead what I'm hearing is that the initial question is, what do we do when there's a disagreement, like kind of some fundamental disagreements around maybe beliefs or approaches to doing something or to taking in what's happening in the world or the country.
Yeah, and that example of pace is great, because
I want to jump in. I want to jump in here because there's two specific things that we've used a lot that we learned from Gay and Katie. And the first one is tossing.
That's what I was thinking.
And the second one is the
heart talk.
10-minute heart talk.
Yeah, the heart talk. So
a very structured way to deal with a conflict that doesn't go on for hours. Because I think, we still refer to the time where we had a fight and then processed the whole next day and sat there and tried very hard.
I used to do that a lot.
And geez, that was exhausting. And we never really felt good about each other afterwards. So with 10-minute heart talk, it just took us right to the nub of, I'm angry, I'm scared, I'm sad, I long for a healthy responsibility and appreciation.
And to piggyback onto what Marlene was sharing, because some individuals on our call tonight may not be familiar with those activities or those terms because you may not have attended a Hendricks training in the past. There are other people on the call for whom that actually does mean something. And so really quickly, tossing is a way of playing. It's a way of playing. It's a way of sharing something with someone else where it's almost as if, or it's not almost, you could toss a ball or a hacky sack or toss a balloon, but where you're actually saying something authentic, and then your partner listens and takes that in, and then you play, they say something back. The conscious heart talk, I believe the conscious heart talk is what you're talking about. This particular activity really gets to, no pun intended, but it really gets to kind of what's at the heart of what's going on for you. A little anecdotal thing is I got divorced in 2002. Divorce was final in 2002, July of 2002. My ex-husband came to a Hendricks training the following January, and we did the conscious heart exercise together, solved our marriage conundrum in 10 minutes.
Wow.
10 minutes. Stood there flabbergasted, sobbing, crying, laughing, hugging, going, oh my God, this is it. This is the thing we spent years trying to figure out. And, you know, the end of the story is we never did get back together, but I got like an end to something, to an arc of something. I got an answer to something that I just never thought I could figure out. And that's one of the examples to Marlene's point. And that's what I've shared, is that that's the power of this work, is that it doesn't have to include lots of processing.
Yeah, Nancy, I have a thought about that. I was just thinking that that's one of my favorite things, is being asked, how could this be easier? How could we make this fun? How could we, having this commitment to joy and fun? And I think that's what, when you were talking about the basic toss, I was thinking that we could demonstrate that for, if you think that that would be supportive. I was having the thought of demonstrating a quick basic toss and how you can use it for something like a disagreement or for feeling expressed about something. So would you, is that something?
Yeah, I'd say go for it. Yes.
Okay. All right. And are we on the screen? Because we're not coming up on our own screen. So
I'm on gallery view, so you're on my screen.
Oh, okay. So I don't know about on speaker. So I'm not sure what's going on with that. But yeah, so I was thinking about, yeah.
What is your issue or problem?
Well, this is the thing. So you can use it for something fun.
Yes.
Working on something fun, like playing with, in fact, let's do something to do with work, because this is often where it'll come up. So I was thinking about doing this new class, and I'm super excited about that.
Tell me more.
Oh, well, I was thinking that it might be fun to get a group of conscious couples together and to play with our favorite tools and see where that goes.
What interests you most about that?
Being in a field of people who love this work and who actually are excited to be together.
And then what happens?
Then I get super bubbly and excited, and I don't know what might happen. So that's an example of the basic toss, and this can be used in conflicts. And it's hard for me to think of a conflict, and it's conflicts come up between us. But it isn't common that we have something that's a really big deal. And I think that that's one of the things that I attribute to the work that we're doing, that there's a no big dealness to whatever's up. And I love, Nicole and Heath, that you talked about being real, because to me, that was the big, like, not packaging and not hiding from what's true, just stating what's true and being able to take full responsibility. Like, this is what's true for me. And that's it. I'm just giving you what's real for me. And then however that goes. And so with the basic toss, it can give space to something that feels scary. So there's space for where you have the ball, the talking stick, and you have that space to be fully expressed. So that's one of our favorite tools, I think, that we.
And I know when we first met too, one of our agreements before we even knew anything about the Hendricks was to be 100% honest. And yet, I was like, what does that really mean? I was like, I'm like, yeah, I can be 100% honest. Sure. And then we, got together. We both had conscious loving books from our old relationships and never finished it. So we're like, hey, this is something. We got the same book. Why don't we explore this? And so we went to a training. We found Katie, it was like right here. Like, wow, let's go to a training. And, like Nicole's talking about the microscopic truth. Then, then I was like, whoa, I'm a little scared about that one. Like, what do you mean, microscopic truth? And so being the 100% honesty and learning to just speak what is real. And then for me, it was learning to speak what I feel. That was the big one for me. And just stating that and not having to be scared to say I feel scared or I feel angry. And like, okay, what is she gonna say? But So really learning to just say something simple as that has really shifted.
I was just thinking of the no big deal of feelings.
Yeah.
And that is a huge thing that we learned from the Hendricks. Like, oh,
And then
all
the
the
unedited
feelings-
blurting and
yeah.
the unedited blurting in any way, anyhow, anything.
Yeah,
That was
which
like-
is a more advanced
Yeah.
move. But
Well, we jumped into that one.
which we did.
As soon as they said that, we're like, let's do that.
We're like, we're
Okay,
in.
whatever that means, let's do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So it's where Katie talks about that you're not packaging in any way. You're not like, you're taking out but why did you say that now? Like, couldn't you have told me that later? Like, this isn't a good time for this. And that was an old thing for me. It's like, but right now, like, that's not really. So we took that right out, and it's like, what's real is real, and now is the time to be fully expressed. So yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up.
It took me a little while to get that on the train because she was really good at that. She was like, hey, you. And I'm like, me?
Me? Little me? What was I doing? Yeah, because we play, like Bob and Marlene were mentioning. I really appreciated you bringing that up, of playing and exaggerating, because that's something that we would do. And it worked really well to unwind blame, to actually play with blame, to actually have it. And I don't know if anyone else is. I'm seeing Heath and Nicole nodding. I'm curious if that's something that you've played with.
We've had some dance-offs in the past.
We will do interpretive rage. So
Oh
no words, and we will do a kabuki of our emotional state that we don't quite even know or
exactly
understand.
how I feel, but I can dance it out. Or
There's lots of
interpretive
strange
moves.
words and physical movements that happen in our home.
But it took just from going from standing, from sitting to standing was the first shift that we learned with the Hendricks. When we have a conversation, we need to talk something over, or we need to get to, we need to deal with this. We used to do it always sitting down, and this is serious. We need to talk about this.
Serious.
And now we get up, we go for a walk, or we walk around or dance around each other, and it's a whole nother experience, and nothing can be serious for very long when this guy with the mustache is doing stuff.
Those are fantastic examples. And there's I had a thought that kind of bridged that over to listening filters that, every one of us, whether we're partnered or not, we have our own listening filters. And so we might be attuned, like like a radio station, you might be attuned to blame and criticism. And when we realize that, oh, that's my listening filter, then we can take that off and use something else, pick up some other resource, something else to do, like the dance off, moving around, making sounds. And for those of you who have never been to a Hendricks training, but maybe you've read books of Katie's and Gay's, they are movement people. So everything that they do, all of their work is around 3 core elements: breathing, moving, and loving. And so the tools are all related in some way to where's your breath, are you moving your body, and are you able to love yourself from wherever you are? So it's not back up the dump truck and just love yourself, damn it. It's could you love your pinky today? Could you love your big toe? And so generating a sense of love and attention for yourself that then you can give also to your partner. So these are all, we're giving you a little bit of a smorgasbord. I'm loving this because we're getting a little bit of a smorgasbord of all these different tools that Katie weaves into not just the couples course, but also into the evolutionary playground training that she teaches, the conscious loving advanced training that starts this Thursday night, the body intelligence training that starts next January, and other courses. So you're getting kind of what I'm appreciating is we're getting kind of like the top of mind things for the 3 couples here of what you employ, what you work with. And I want to let you know, we've got one question that's come up, and there might be more, but I'm going to stick with the one for the moment because that's what I saw. is this is for each couple. So this is, you know how I said the dating game, I'm actually thinking of like the newlywed game.
Oh, this could be good.
You know, so
Newlywed game, right?
yeah, we're not going to play it, but I'm anyway. So this is for each couple. What is the most important thing that keeps your relationship alive? Mm-hmm. So we haven't heard from Bob and Marlene in a little bit. So I want to go to Bob and Marlene first, and then Heath and Nicole, and then Dean and Michele.
Well, it could be various things, but we are very, very involved in touch. Okay, movement and touch in sexual play, and it's become front and center in our life. And
so we've been together. We've known each other for almost 54 years, right? Yeah. And so the assumption is that people in their 70s don't do this kind of stuff. But I think it's not knowing what's going to happen next.
No, in fact, it's about being open to look where this is going.
So not believing,
this is new.
Not believing that I know what he's thinking, going to do, going to say, wants, and being open to being surprised by, and it can still happen. Believe me, 50 years, 54 years, and I still get blown away. And our biggest joke right now is that you're supposed to know what I'm thinking. You're supposed to be able to read my mind. Well, no, absolutely not. But it seems like it comes up over and over and over again. What? You didn't read my mind? Oh my God.
Nice.
Yeah, so we play touch games, and the touch games have to do with what's this feel like? What's it feel like for me if I'm playing with touch? What's it like in my hands? And I mean, what's it like for you? But what's it like for me? And it's all about doing this sort of thing, which is, basic practice, right?
Well, what it looks like and what I'm hearing you say is that you're deeply committed to the exploration, and you're deeply committed to the unknown and to the discovery. And, there's lots of science out there that we regenerate our cells and that we are new. We renew ourselves. And in this way, it sounds like, Bob, what you were doing, you're doing this with your hands. And for me, as I interpret that looks like a continual renewal. It's like going out and then coming back in, and then going back out and then coming back in. So thank you for sharing. That's very rich activity that the two of you commit to. So yum. All right, Heath and Nicole, how about the two of you? let me come back to the question. What's the most important thing that keeps your relationship alive?
Most important thing.
Yeah, don't cage me into one singular most important, right? What's popping up for me is, I think it's kind of like an unorthodox willingness to, and you've been speaking to it, many of you, the play, the favoring spontaneity and
the opening and
exaggerating, being goofy, not taking things or ourselves seriously. I mean, I think if I were to identify what I help bring to the relationship, we were really committed to open and honest communication. And I think what Nicole really helped teach me, and what she continues to be a genius, is in all art forms of play. And I think those really help me personally balance having that ability to be revealed and to be impacted from her, and that raw immediacy and intimacy, and then the ability to have a really good time.
I think for me, appreciation has been a huge part of, I think it's what you're really good at. You can find something to appreciate in every moment, any moment, and constantly appreciating me, which was sometimes hard for me to receive, and learning how to receive those appreciations and also learning how to become more masterful at sharing appreciations has really enlivened our connection and our I think really have fluffed up our love bubble.
Oh, big time.
Ooh, one of the things that I'm appreciating about the two of you, and also Bob and Marlene, about the way in which you're speaking of your experiences, is that, I don't know if anybody else is noticing this, but you're speaking of your experience. So there isn't the projection of, well, this is what I think, and I think Nicole thinks this. So I'm noticing a really keen absence of that projection. You know, and that's one of the ways of staying transparent and clean in our relationships, is that I take responsibility for what's going on over here, and then pause, and then let you take, you know, you say something and take responsibility for what's going on over there, and hopefully remain curious and available and willing to connect as that arises. But I don't know about you guys, but I'm very familiar with the dynamic in relationships, and was just witness to this yesterday, of one person talking and then saying, and this is what I think the other person thinks. And then the other person would talk, and this is what I think that person thinks. And so there was a lot of convoluted, it feels very spiderwebby and sticky to me, you know, when I tune into that. So I'm so appreciating the four of you so far for being super clean about, this is my experience, and what's yours? So Dean and Michele, coming to you now for this question. What is the most important thing that keeps your relationship alive?
I had a thought that popped up and then it disappeared. So do you have something? Because I just literally, it was like, oh, my mind just went into faint.
It's kind of the same as Heath was saying, don't box me into one important, there's a lot of important things. You know, I know for me, with connecting with Gay in one of the trainings, and then really learning to love myself a lot, like learning to love everything about me, has opened up me to seeing, you know, Michele as my ally, and feeling safe to be able to express around her. And so really learning to love myself fully has opened up the gate to more aliveness for myself, which then I can give aliveness to her, you know. So,
and that just that reminded me of what I was going to say, which is that we started focusing on our own strengths rather than competition, which in the beginning it was kind of like, oh, we have to do everything like what you were talking to, Nancy, like everything the same, and we have to, you know, like I have to make sure, like, is he okay if I'm doing this or whatever? And so allowing ourselves to be, especially because we work together, for Dean to be like, oh, that's awesome that you've got that aspect and you love to do that. And this is what I do. And I so appreciated that because it allowed me to be free, to be like, oh, so I think that was a big key to our aliveness, is us owning our own, like, this is what I am and this is what I bring. And then osmosing from each other. Like you talk about goofy and fun. I mean, Dean is definitely, of the two of us, he's the one who will lighten things up because I can get a little serious. And, you know, and I'm not very serious, but I'm going to be the serious one of the two of us. And so for me to be able to osmose some of that and realize that, like, oh, that's great that he's a little bit lighter than me. I can actually not like, oh, why can't it be like that? So I think it's the same thing, like self-love and owning what I am, so that then I can bring my full self. So that's what came to mind.
And then Essence Pace was huge for us.
Oh yeah.
Of learning where our pace was, because, you know, New Jersey, Hawaii, trying to figure out where the pace is there. You know, she's like, and I'm like, you know, relax, chill. So that kind of, first we thought, oh, we're just helping each other balance each other out. And then when we did the Essence Pace, we were pretty much walking the same speed.
We pretty much
slowed down and I sped up. Yeah. And then it was like the same.
It was like,
so
what? Yeah, that was shocking. I think that's a fantastic tool that I'm pretty sure gets woven into couples course. And it's definitely on the Foundation for Conscious Living website. You can look up Essence Pace and learn about that. And in fact, Heath and Nicole, you have some kind of piece that's on there about Essence Pace, if I remember correctly. Wrote a blog or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it's, I think, yeah, pace is so true. Like, and honoring each other in where we are, if we're a little bit different. So yeah.
I want to bridge
20-second
that.
hugs.
I want to bridge. Oh, what was that, Dean?
And
Oh,
20-second hugs.
Oh, yes.
All the time.
Yes.
Yes.
20 seconds.
Yeah. Yum. Well, what I want to bridge is there was something that you said a few minutes ago that made me think of another activity that's done in the couples course, which is closer to and farther away. And this is something that if any of you have ever had a toddler in your life or watched toddlers at an airport, you've seen toddlers do this. And we're just kind of big toddlers. And so we do this in our relationships, only we like to think we're a bit more sophisticated about it, which is it's the dynamic of how close can I get without being fully consumed? Or if I get close, I'm going to get consumed, might be one of the fears. And if I get separate, I'm going to be abandoned, or I might be the abandoner, you know, the one that doing the abandoning. And so that dynamic of being able to give each other plenty of space to pursue one's own interests and have one's own thoughts, one's own beliefs, etc., and then coming together and facing one another so that you can go, oh, and who are you today? You know, and who are you today? So that you've got that dynamic of going separate and coming together, because it's innate within us. And what often will occur, especially in couples, is that they'll create some big upset to create the separation. So, you know, at the end of a particularly close weekend, maybe you've gone on, you know, a little trip together and you come home and somebody creates a fight about the laundry. Who's going to do the laundry? You know, well, I don't have time to do the laundry. I've got to work tonight. I've got to look at my email. You know, so you might create an uproar or something like that. And that's just, we're very creative humans, or as humans, we're very creative, and that's just one example. But the giving attention to pacing, giving attention to turning towards one another, giving attention to your own pursuits, your own interests, and then coming together, you know, with your partner to, you know, bring all that creative energy that you've raised within yourself to see, well, what wants to happen now? You know, kind of to Bob and Marlene's experience of touch. Well, what wants to happen now? And how does that feel? And where do we want to take this? So I'm going to pause and see if anybody has a question. I'm also going to glance. It doesn't look like we've got any more questions that have popped up, but does anybody have a question for one couple, all three couples? We've got 15 minutes left to our call tonight. Glenn, I see your hand.
And
hello, sexy beings.
Hi, Glenn.
My question to all three couples, what is your favorite way to support each other's individuality?
Great question.
yeah.
Heath, do you want to go first?
I'm going to go.
Or somebody else? I heard your voice, and so anybody just jump on in from our lovely panel.
I know it's Hendricks taught us this term of a glommer and a splitter. And the way I heard it described by Katie was that in a lot of relationships, there's the sharp pencil, and what's the other one?
The
happy idiot.
The stupid idiot. Yeah, the happy idiot.
So those kind of archetypes really kind of resonate in different ways, and we are very clear about who's the sharp pencil. That's me. And who's the glommer? That's me. And having a sense of where we ride that spectrum helps me know my kind of proclivity and where my momentum is. And knowing where she is like, oh, Nicole's very happy to go out with her girlfriends and very happy to,
so you make space for me to do that.
Yeah.
I even have a t-shirt that says, I need my space, and I'm allowed to wear whenever I feel like I'm done sticking to each other. When things get sticky, I'm like, oh, wait a minute, need my space.
I'm like, oh, but honey, let's do everything together all the time.
Sorry, go ahead, finish that thought. Then there was a
in
question.
that process, I've also learned that I'm actually a repressed splitter. So I actually like that alone time a lot more than I had told myself.
Yeah.
So it's fun to play, but giving Nicole space is super
And vice versa now.
refreshing for both of us.
Yeah.
And I think the question was actually from Glenn for all three couples. So did you have something to share, Michele?
Oh, well, Elizabeth asked, what's the sharp pencil? So I didn't know if, because Heath brought that up, if you want to speak to that. Okay. Yeah. So repeat the question again, and I'll weave that into it.
Glenn?
Yeah. So what's your favorite way to support each other's individuality?
Oh, yeah. So I think I was speaking to that before when I was saying that I think for me to know, well, first of all, we're both splitters, but you're probably more of a glommer, I'm guessing. Or maybe I'm an extreme
like a lot
splitter.
Of hugs, I like hugging, but the dog pile thing.
Well, that's an inside thing, but he was referring to our leadership community who would like to like glom on each other. Everyone's glomming and we'd be off to the side. And I remember saying to Nancy, if we join the Leadership and Transformation Program, which is a program that was going on for 30 years, do we have to do that? Because that's a no for us. Like that's a no. And that was a really big deal, actually, to talk about that. And I'll always remember that conversation. And the answer was no, we don't have to do that. But I love that because the differences can be more subtle. Like in our relationship, we both were really clear about like, don't get too close, but you like more closeness than I like. And so being able to not take that personally, like for me to be able to say like, hey, I need a little alone time. And I could have that t-shirt, Nicole. So that, I think that probably for me, it's that I cheer Dean on. So it's like, I get so excited when something good is happening for him. When he's like doing something and he's really like shining in that gets me really excited. So I think that that's one of the things that then encourages us both to own like, oh yeah, and appreciating each other with that. So that's, for me, I think that's how I would answer that. And the sharp pencil thing, I'm the sharp pencil. So for my interpretation of it is one person is a little bit more easygoing and the other person is the one who's going to be like, okay, and now, we have that thing to schedule and that's how it plays out in our relationship. And so, yeah, and I like to osmose some happy idiot because I can be a little tired of the sharp pencil thing. So I think that's another beautiful thing when we're allies, when we see each other as allies. And that's something that was a big commitment for us to see like, this is like, we're on the same team and we love being on the same team. That is actually gave me the opportunity to see like, well, what is it that I can actually osmose and learn from Dean? Instead of like, you should be more like me. Like I am definitely the better one and you should be like me. So, which wouldn't work very well.
Oh, that's great.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Dean.
For me, it was just honoring Michele for who she is and everything she is, everything about her, the good and the bad.
What?
And just really, and just being, this big, bubbly idea fest, loud person that I can just like, wow, I love that about her. And I really admire her for being that way, and it helps me to express more, being, osmosing that from her. So.
And you let me leave my socks all over the place.
And I let her leave her socks all over the place. Yeah. She'll just throw her socks on there. Okay.
That's the thing, is actually having fun with each other's quirkiness. And I would imagine, I'm guessing, I would like to hear from other couples, I should say, I shouldn't assume, that may be a common thread in happy relationships, is actually having, like, seeing it as funny. Like he sees it as funny that I do silly things that other people would get mad at me for, like that I've had that experience. So I'm curious how Nicole and Heath and Bob and Marlene, if you have that.
Question.
Yeah, I would definitely echo what both of you have said, all four of you have said, in terms of because there's always a choice between taking something personally or laughing about it or appreciating something or judging it. And so learning that, like I felt like that was a big, because I was raised in a sea of judgment and negativity. And so learning to sort of go, oh, well, you're doing that thing that I used to try and train you out of doing, which, you know,
I'm incorrigible.
it just, like 30 years of trying to make you into what I wanted you to be didn't work. So can I appreciate what you are and not take personally what you aren't, or what you are, or like it's such a relief.
Yes.
It frees
Yeah,
up
that's
energy and space to do other things together and on our own.
Yeah,
what
and
oh, go ahead, Bob.
it's
Sorry.
so basic that she's not me, and am I ever glad?
And I'm the sharp pencil.
Am I ever glad?
I'm the sharp pencil, and he started.
But I'm not a happy idiot.
And he started appreciating my lists. Like 20 years ago, he would fight against them, but now he appreciates them, and he uses them, and he I don't know. It's just like it's not an issue anymore because it's something I do without even trying, and like trying to change myself would make me feel all constricted. So like, yeah, I make lists. I always have 10 million things in my head, and once I get them down on paper, it's easier, and he gets to like benefit from that.
I benefit greatly, and you know, I just really appreciate all these genius parts of her. She's a detail person. It is so useful for me to have detailed people around me, you know. Not that I can do it too. It's just that I'm more of, I'm going to wander off in this idea and see what goes on. You know, that's more me. And she kind of, I think she's appreciating that of me these days. And, you know, some people who see us together say, you know, they're together a lot. They're the same kind of, I don't know, one from another. Well, you know, actually, we're not at all like each other.
And somehow it's worked.
Yeah.
So I see Rod's got a question. Rod's raising his hand, but I also want to just say, I want to get one thing in so that we're not rushing at the very end. And that is that for anybody that's on the call tonight, we've got a couples course that starts October 14th. And if you are on this call tonight and you want to enroll in that course and you've never attended it before, we are extending the early bird discount for you tonight and tomorrow. But you have to enroll directly with me, and you can find me at nancy@hendricks.com. You can find me out on the hendricks.com website. Lots of different ways to find me. My name and email address is plastered all over in different places, so on the seminars pages. But I just want to let you know that through tomorrow, if you want to join the couples course with your sweetheart, we're giving you $100 off for those that are, again, first timers. So I wanted to get that in. Rod, you have a question or a statement. I'm not sure.
I have a comment about the playfulness, because that's the key, and that's what first attracted me to Judith. We've been married for a year now. One of the things that we sometimes do if we have a disagreement, and I try to do all, because I've done a lot of Hendricksy stuff, I try all these tools and I realize, yeah, I've still got I recognize I've still got a grr in me, is that we'll go out to our garage where we have a ping pong table and we play ping pong with each other. And what's great about it is it allows you to stay connected, and yet it allows you to be goofy and to laugh when the things, you know, funny shots happen, or aggressive, because you kind of zing that ball here and there. And then we laugh at it, but we also express. So another way of playing, and you could play with music or other things as well, but to actually pick a game like that, I guess it's like a type of dance. But we found that by accident. It was really, really fun to go out and play some ping pong.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you both for weighing in. Does anybody else have something you'd like to put out into the space as we're approaching our time to wrap up? Anything at all from our participants, from our, you know, anybody who's listening in? All right. Anything from our panelists, our esteemed, amazing couples? Anything that you would like to share? any last little bit that you haven't conveyed yet that you want to make sure everybody hears, because it's the best ever piece of information.
I do have a best ever, and it's a huge energy saver. And I think it coincides with what we were talking about, the heart talk. And I love your story, Nancy, that you figured out what was going on with your previous relationship after years and years of trying in a 10 minutes. What we realized, there's also a logistics version. Instead of heart talk, we still do our 10-minute heart talks, but we also do 10-minute stuff talk. And we've owned our own business for about 20 years. And when we would have meetings, usually they'd be weekly. Usually they would go on for about 45 minutes to an hour of frustrating, grueling, irritating, so frustrating I had to say it twice. And usually we'd both leave disappointed. We didn't get to everything on the agenda. And Gay and Katie shared this thing called a 10-minute stuff talk. And even if you don't own a business, a lot of folks live together and there's stuff around the household that needs to be attended to. But we were blown away. We thought it was impossible to get all our work agenda attended to and resolved in 10 minutes. And I think the first few, we cheated a little. We did like a 15-minute, and we got better and better and cleaner and more efficient. And it's really easy now where we do stuff talks maybe once every other week or once a month, 10 minutes, figure out everything going on in our business, figure out who's going to do what by when, boom, done. And we're not carrying that bitterness or that lack of meeting each other because we're able to be so much more efficient. And I think a lot of what Hendricks provide, in addition to a playful atmosphere, instead of working through anything, we're playing with everything, is the efficiency and the economy of communication, of connection, of presencing. And I encourage everybody, whether you're coupling or you're individual, I think everybody can experience a lot of benefit, a lot of life enhancement, personally or professionally, by exploring these kinds of tools with the Hendricks.
Thank you, Heath. That's beautiful. Yeah, thank you. Oh, well, we're at our time. It's 6 o'clock Pacific time, and I'm going to invite everybody, if you could, if you want to, you're welcome to unmute yourselves, put your voice some way out into the space so we hear you. We may all be crossing our voices over one another, but I appreciate everybody for taking time out of your night to be here tonight, to listen in, to ask brilliant questions, and for our 3 panelist couples for lending their wisdom. So, yay!
Wow.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
That was so cool.
Yeah, really hard.
Thank you.
Thank you all for participating. All right. Bye now.